Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Morgan Hasn't Seen TV Palling with Peacemaker, the long overdue finale to our discussions of Peacemaker here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. I'm excited to get back into it, Janine, even though this is a finale of a particular little series. It's nice to be back on here with some Morgan Hasn't Seen TV. It is long
Yes,
overdue.
yes, definitely. I'm glad you are finally finishing this show. I don't even know about news of the second season, so uh, whenever that comes out, you'll be prepared now. So, and I'm excited to see what you thought of the series as a whole now that we've concluded it. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we'll be throwing a new show into the rotation now that we have knocked one off the list. But excited to just close out our first finished run of a show on this show. So
Yes, which is very nice. This was always a show that would be sporadic here, there,
yeah,
and everywhere. Yes, okay, we want to going forward make it a little bit more regular. We certainly do have plans in place to
yes.
do just that. So do keep an eye out, definitely, on this channel. Subscribe, ding your notification bell, of course, for all the great stuff we have on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel, for all the fun stuff we have coming to the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. But Peacemaker, the last two episodes. Let's just start and get straight on into it, Janine. I think with episode 7,
Yes.
Stop Dragon My Heart Out. The great titles continue for the
Yes.
episodes.
They do have a lot of fun with that, but let me get into the synopsis for the episode. Leota has second thoughts about the team's mission, while Chris, Vigilante, Eagly, and John dodge White Dragon and his skinheads. Meanwhile, the butterflies come for Clemson at the motel. Amelia and Leota are there, and one of the team falls in battle.
Yes. One of the team falls in battle, and somebody else falls in battle as well in this episode, most excitingly, but then also not most excitingly, because he's not actually gone, is he? And I know
Gone.
that's the
Yeah.
very end of the episode, but really, episode 7, I think, is centered around those two passings of characters.
Yeah.
One we are sad to see go, as kind
Yeah.
of up and down as we have been in a roller coaster, our feelings towards Mern over
Yeah.
the course of the first season of Peacemaker. Do we trust him? It looks like he's very clever and very with it at the very beginning. We discover he's a butterfly. Nobody trusts him anymore, but he builds that back up. And now in
Yeah.
this penultimate episode, he falls at the hands of the swarm of butterflies that we now obviously see begin to take over, as we assume that is what they're doing. But it's an emotional fall.
Yeah, because
It's
I mean,
very, very heartfelt.
yeah, because I mean, we kind of see his bravery for him going against his own kind for the greater
Yeah,
good because he knows, despite understanding their mission, he doesn't want to take over another race of people like that. He knows it's
yeah,
wrong.
it's
So,
too drastic.
yes, takes a lot for him to, stand up against his own kind. So that already kind of sets you in the mindset of him being this noble character. And then even like his last words to the team, like he still believes in this team, he still wants them to do good. And like even when in taking over Mern, he took over probably the worst human he could think of so that he wouldn't feel so bad about, killing someone and taking their form.
Yeah,
Uh, so he ended up kind of ridding the earth of somebody who was already a terrible person. So even the thought that went into that just shows the character of this person. So yeah, definitely a sad loss with him. And yeah, it was really kind of heartfelt when we hear him, in the earpiece kind of telling them, you were a great team. It was an honor to serve beside you in his last moment. So
yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
even his little
gives more.
butterfly little ET moment he had, with
There is
Harcourt. Yeah.
a strange little ET kind of moment, isn't there?
Yeah.
It is quite, but it's sweet. It is quite
Yeah.
sweet, and I like it for doing that. I think the show throughout its season, and I know we are getting a second season, as you did allude to. Although, yes, very similar to you, when that's going to happen, I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
But it is announced, and it is,
It's happening,
on Mr. Gunn's enormous list of
yeah. Yeah.
things to do, which he has and keeps telling people about, but we never seem to see anything of, which
Yeah.
is it concerning? Is it strange? Should we still be somewhat excited? Let's
I
be
mean,
optimistic. I
yes, let's
still
be
think
optimistic.
we
He's just working. It means he's busy. It means he's working on it,
it's
so,
true.
yeah.
It's very true. But no, I like the sweetness of, Butterfly Mern's death, because it shows more honor for that particular butterfly as well. You
Yeah.
know, they're not all intense and single-minded. You do get your butterflies with a certain level of emotion and, a thought process, a
Yeah.
depth, and he is an example of that. The fact we have been able to care about his passing so much in his last moment over the course of what is ultimately a short season of television is really, really good writing, and
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
As well as it being a bit of a silly ET moment, but you are expecting the mix of silliness and sincerity that Peacemaker has given
Oh,
us
yes,
throughout the
definitely.
entire thing.
Yeah, it's very consistent
Um,
with that, and I mean, even opening this episode is very emotional. We open with
very
seeing
much
what
so.
really happened to Peacemaker's little brother. Their father kind of forced them to, pit fight in front of, like, all his friends and everybody, and so him and his brother kind of play boxing each other, and then his dad, tells him, like, "Swing on your brother, like, hit him, hit him." So at the encouragement of his dad, he puts all his force into hitting his brother, and his brother ends up having a seizure and dying because of that punch.
Yes.
So he holds this guilt. His father takes no responsibility in his part in even, making them fight, making him hit his brother. Um, and that brother that died was the father's favorite. So then that blame,
Yeah.
comes on to him tenfold for the loss of his brother. So it's something he has struggled with for a long time. And, they lay it out as maybe this is something that has driven a lot of his decisions throughout his whole life. And the dynamic between him and his father being so tumultuous, that is just kind of the catalyst for every other bad way his father treats him. So, I like
Yeah.
that we got to kind of go back there and see that, and so we can understand the character a little bit more. And, it speaks volumes to how, we feel about this character from seeing him in the Suicide Squad to this movie. It gives so much more context to this character who we hated by the end of that Suicide Squad movie. So,
Yeah.
really, really smart writing, to let us kinda see that insight into this character that we wouldn't have really expected.
But we realize over the course of this season, of this series, that he is just damaged mentally as
Mhm.
a person completely. We see why, because of his father. We know that there's something that's happened with his brother. We know his brother died. Um, we obviously don't know until the opening scene of this episode
Yeah,
exactly what happened. But the fact it's that brutal, and that very much not on Chris's shoulders.
yeah,
This cross to bear, yet he bears it because of the fear he has for his father. Yet another installment of, his father is the worst person ever in the
yes,
world, ever. Go away in your stupid white dragon antler gear,
yeah,
please. But it's great that the episode opens with that because of where the episode ends. Good
yes,
bookends here.
yes,
The
100%.
reason the kind of the ultimate reason he and his father are so against each other, to open the episode, and then with it closing out as it does in very, very brutal fashion, but almost celebratory
Yeah,
brutal fashion for us, just to kind of have a brick thrown straight back in your face with it as well. Though it's
yeah,
harsh, but at least it's a step in the right direction, and it feels horrible to say that, given that at the end of the episode, Peacemaker kills his father, straight up,
yeah.
straight
Yes,
murder, and I mean nasty. It's horrible, it's
yes,
violent, it's relentless, it's brutal in all kinds of ways, and we're watching it going, "Ooh, ooh," I mean, yes, good, this is great, but
yeah,
oof, this is horrible, this is
yeah, and it's
years of pent up
oh,
rage,
yeah,
just, but
letting itself all out, yeah, I mean, and
absolutely.
it's preceded by him punching him and yelling all of the things he always wanted to say but was too afraid. And
Yeah,
you would think that that would be cathartic for him, or it would make his father realize something, but no, his father is still antagonizing him to the very end, even critiquing how he's punching him and still calling him names and all of that, even in this moment where he's finally getting to say everything he wants to say, hitting his father repeatedly, showing his strength to his father, showing his anger and his hurt. And there's still no sympathy from that man, and then it leads to him kind of shooting him, point blank in the head.
yeah.
Um,
There's not
and
gonna
so
be
we
any
think,
sympathy from this man. There's not gonna be any understanding from
no,
this man. This is a
no,
man without sense. This is a man without reason.
yeah,
This is a man purely single-minded and focused on his own lordship over everybody else, because
yes,
he is the lord and master and Mr. Dragon, whatever he wants to be
Mr.
referred as.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's such a visceral moment, and then, we learn kind of where that goes for him, which is kind of sad and a little scary as well. But just to get into more of the episode, Harcourt kind of confronts Adebayo when she realizes that she's the one who planted the diary, that now
Yes.
has this manhunt out for Peacemaker for Chris, and also this betrayal to the team because they were finally getting along, understanding each other, really feeling like a unit. And then to see this betrayal from her, I love that she kind of calls her out on that. And I love that Harcourt, who kind of was very much mission focused, not a friend type of person, she's the thing that's pissing her off is the fact that she saw them as friends
Yeah,
and this
she's grown
betrayal.
into that, and it's
Yes.
now been taken away.
Yes, so I know
Um,
people, have all this hate and talk all this shit about her, because she's, James Gunn's wife, and it's like, him, letting g putting her in things because she's his wife and only because she's his wife, but I think she's a great character, I think they write well for her, I think she performs it well, and I love the arc of this character, even in going into stuff like fights and all of these things, I think Harcourt is a great
yeah,
character, and she does a
there's
great job, so I never understand why people are so uh, you know, on that with her because she did a great job in terms of selling this arc for this character who was kind of cold and even Adebayo in their fight, she she like calls her an asshole or an internal asshole or something like that. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know what you were talking about. I thought you were making fun of some kind of medical condition I had." And she's like, "Why would I do that?" Because you seem like the type of person who would make fun of somebody's medical condition in the middle of a fight. So the fact that she goes from being a person you see like that to this person who's pissed because of a friend's betrayal,
yeah,
when she started the season not seeing anyone as a friend, is a really great arc for the character.
it is, and she obviously becomes the leader of the team as well, kind of
Yeah.
officially,
Mhm.
when Mern does die. So it is a great character arc, and I completely agree with you. How many times throughout, I suppose, movie history, I know this isn't a movie, obviously, but how many times throughout movie history have filmmakers put their spouses in as the lead of movies?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it does tend to work because, funnily enough, the creator of the movie or the TV show wants it to do well. They're not just going to do it for any reason. And if they're going to do it for any reason, there'll be a cameo.
Yeah,
They won't actually be a fully fledged character. That's a
yeah,
complete waste of everybody's time.
yeah. I mean,
So,
just watch The Godfather Part 3.
I mean, you've just thrown it right back in my face there. I know. Okay, fine. There's the one instance.
But
Although
no.
I'd like to point out that's a daughter, not a spouse.
That is true. And in this case, I think James Gunn has a pretty clean track record in terms of the work that he puts out. He's pretty consistent in creating things that people enjoy, writing compelling stories, and mixing really interesting characters with comedy, with action, with heart, all of those things. And so I don't think
Yeah,
he would have given her this much to do if he didn't think she was capable of it. And she does a great job. So, yeah,
she does.
I liked in that moment getting to really understand the arc of this character, really just pissed about, how could you betray us? Like, I thought we were friends kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the absolute tense climax of the whole season, this episode, because everybody's at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting on with anybody. Economos is in the middle of it all, not really knowing what to do because he's just wants to get along with everybody.
Yes, yeah.
Um, but Mern's dead. Adebayo and Harcourt are obviously fighting. Peacemaker's off on his own, having felt betrayed anyway, but he's also fighting with the father. You're getting all the butterflies coming in. It's
Yeah.
chaos all over the place in this episode. Wonderfully so, because it, I mean, it doesn't end with everybody coming together. That kind of
Yeah.
comes in the finale, but it ends with you really questioning how they're actually going to be able to get what they need to do in the
Yes.
finale done
There's
because
they're a
nobody
small
likes
little
each
broken.
other.
Yes, they're a small little broken unit of people. So yeah,
Yeah.
how are they gonna get this done?
And with again with Chris himself, with Peacemaker now having straight up murdered his own father, justifiably, understandably, we love that he's done that, but
Yeah.
he's now being haunted by the memory of him almost immediately
Immediately,
after
yeah.
killing him, which I mean bodes well and bodes interestingly for season two. I think.
Yes.
Presumably, that is going to be a rather therapeutic season for Peacemaker, and he's going to have to get over this at some point over the course of season two,
Yes.
and work to really cast his father aside from his mind, be fulfilled, or grow as a person, grow to be a more fulfilled, well-rounded person, still with his own stupid tendencies and still with his,
Yeah, of course.
relentless attitude, but a more clear in his mind person, which we've
Yeah.
seen slowly start to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's likely where his character is going to go in any future inclusion of viewing of him. That didn't
Yes.
make sense, but you know what I mean.
I got what you mean. But yeah, I mean, we talked about the kind of fun fusion of the more deeper things and the comedy, and this episode has a ton of kind of Scooby-Doo level shenanigans happening with, like,
Yeah,
the idiot skinhead people trying to find, Chris and Vigilante and Economos and Eagly as their kind of a group on the run from his father. Um,
getting
he
caught
ties.
up with the judo master.
Yeah. They, like, tie the helmet to whatever creature they find in the woods, and it's just running around with the helmet, and so they're following the tracking device on it. Vigilante is totally, like, blown up, and, they get out of the car to go track the helmet, and whoever was driving leaves the keys in it. So Vigilante just crawls into the car, drives when they're like, "You left the keys in the car?" Kind of
Yes,
situation, to which Vigilante immediately passes out because he's so injured. So there are some funny kind of run around chase shenanigans happening for sure in this episode, before we get to kind of the more poignant elements.
Yeah, that's it. But it's the look. The funny stuff is there. I've always liked the funny stuff
Yeah,
in Peacemaker, but it is the more meaningful stuff that does hit
yeah,
me more in these series. I think it has done all throughout our discussions of Peacemaker. It's always been the more sincere stuff that has hit me more because that's quite surprising that it is able to do it so sincerely.
yeah,
That's why I say that. Yes, the comedy still works. It always works. It's very, very consistent. The stupidity holds true.
yeah,
But I can't help thinking that this is the emotional climax of the entire season.
yeah.
And we now just go into what is essentially a final episode of a siege on the big alien cow factory, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, with this incredibly broken down group who doesn't,
Yes.
lost their leader, they're at odds with each other, there's some trust issues, and Chris going through a lot of mental breakdown as well with, what happened with his father and everything else. So,
Yes.
how are they going to get through this? How are they going to win the day with going into it like this?
Well,
Um
let's talk about how they're going to win the day, Janine. In
Yeah,
Peacemaker season 1, the finale, it's cow or never.
now
Very
or never.
true. It
Yes,
is
great
it is
again.
cow or never.
Great episode titles. Let me see if I can find this synopsis for this. Um, and we also didn't talk about the return of that judo master guy. He
Ah,
also,
yes, I brought him up. Judo Master was I brought him up a little bit because he's making it hard for the skinhead people.
oh yes, yes. Um,
He's just there, like, at the what is he, at, like, a bus stop or something?
he's like at a
Or a gas
convenience store and
station,
beats up these
just
guys.
eating some snacks and runs into them.
Yes.
He will show up at random occasions over the course of this season of Peacemaker, it seems, Judo Master, and kinda just unnecessarily beat people up.
Yes.
It's fun.
It's
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 fun
really
to
great.
watch. While you're finding the synopsis of the finale of Peacemaker, I will just mention how I actually really like the visual of the big butterfly cow
With
thing.
its little with its little one pointy tooth to, like,
Yeah.
also kinda hammer the point home that it's like a baby.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's
Yes.
very, very alien, but it's also this kind of big scale threat when you actually think about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a massive deal. It's quite similar to what was his name? The starfish in the Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
Starry,
Starro. Yeah.
Starro. Sorry,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
me and
Very
my
very
poor
similar.
comic book knowledge there from me. But similar to that, like something that is enormous, kind of soft and cuddly looking. It looks a bit
Yeah.
cute. Got one big eye in this cow's instance, one big tooth makes it look
Yeah.
like a small baby child.
But yes,
Yet
and also just
is this all-consuming,
a very
enormous, and
dangerous
powerful,
thing.
planet-destructing idea.
Yeah, it's very much like Ghostbusters, like this
Yeah.
destructor, this giant threat taking the form of something so ridiculous. Um, but yes, the team go after the butterflies at the ranch, and Chris is presented with a choice between saving humanity and bringing it peace. Leota tries to apologize to Chris for betraying him on Amanda's orders. Join breaks a leg, and Eagly betrays the mission at a critical juncture.
A
Yes.
critical juncture. Eagerly. Eagerly being all
Yes.
emotional himself. There's
And
no
when they just
need for
ask
all the eagerly.
yes, well, Eagly, with the hug, and I like that he tries to sneak his camera to, like, get a picture of Eagly hugging him. Um, but yeah, so they are going into this mission totally at odds, and I like, Leota, she tries to apologize, she feels genuinely bad at this point,
She
Uh
does, very
and
much so.
he just won't hear it. You can tell he's so hurt, like, he genuinely cares because he thought saw her as a friend. So he's genuinely just hurt by her, and he doesn't want to even give her the satisfaction of an apology, but you feel like there's going to be an opportunity to make it right at a certain point,
Yeah,
so
uh, but she's obviously been another one though that we've kept going back to, as a very conflicted person throughout this
yeah.
entire season, because she's having to do this secret mission for not only Amanda Waller, who'd be terrifying to do a secret mission for anyway, as Peacemaker himself was doing in the movie The Suicide Squad, but the fact that she is her mother.
Yes.
And that's going to be double the pressure, isn't it? So, especially when you actually become friends with the people,
That
you're
you are not
allegedly
supposed to.
supposed to betray.
Yeah,
You're
yes,
not
and then she
supposed to
also
become friends with them.
yeah, and then she also has her wife to worry about, like, they are
Yeah.
having a financial struggle, they're trying to, like, start their lives together, and so she has a lot on her back, so you can also understand kinda her motivations for what she did, but I like that she genuinely feels really bad and remorseful for that, so, we ultimately see them kind of sucking it up and coming together. We even get this really sad and sweet confession from Economos because,
We
the
do.
whole series, Chris was calling him Diebeard, and then I
I
think they
almost thought he was going to die in this finale, to be honest with you.
yeah?
When because he kind of goes all in, sneaking up to
Yeah.
the cow right in the middle of all these butterflies, and I'm saying to myself, he's definitely gonna
Well,
get found
yeah,
out
he's
here.
definitely he's not doing a great job. He's, like, he keeps looking back to where they are hiding in the woods. He keeps talking to himself, like, loud enough for people to hear. He looks genuinely terrified. So, he's not selling, being the
He
security guard
really does.
amongst the other butterflies. He's doing a terrible job. But once he kind of gets out of there, they ask him to confirm his identity, and so then he admits that he started dyeing his beard, for confidence, but he doesn't get paid enough, so he had to use the cheapest beard dye ever. And he didn't think anyone would notice because no one ever notices him, but somebody did notice that he did that. So it kind of also is a sobering moment for Chris to realize that, like, him saying that all the time really hurt Economos's feelings, and he took it to
Yeah.
heart. And the reason why he dyed his beard and the fact that Chris was able to pinpoint that and make such a big deal out of it was really hurtful for him. So, it's been this running gag the whole series, the whole show, and
Yeah,
then
that
to
we've
have
not
it come
thought
back.
anything of. It's just
No, very innocuous.
always kind of, yeah, innocuous. It keeps coming back. It's always been funny to have the emotional weight that it ends up having is
Yes,
again really
really smart.
surprising
Yes.
and really smart. Really
Yeah.
very, very smart. Just
So,
be
yeah.
nice to people, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm glad that he did not die, in that moment.
Even though
But
I definitely thought he was going to, and
yes, I mean,
that's where the emotional, moment with him would have come from. I
yes,
was expecting a certain emotional moment with him, just not in the way we actually do. Get it.
yes,
Interesting. Surprise me, Peacemaker. This is good. This is what I wanted from the finale of this, because ultimately, okay, plot wise, it's pretty straightforward. It is, like I said, basically just an episode of a big siege on the cow
yeah, yeah.
and one huge battle almost. And very good. We like the fighting
Oh,
scenes in this
yeah.
season have always been great. This is its big showpiece finale, obviously, and it totally delivers on the carnage and the violence and the chaos and the destruction of
Yeah.
what you would expect in the grand finale battle of Peacemaker. Um, but again, not without its little weird emotional moments. I was maybe expecting more infighting on the battlefield, as it
Yeah,
were, over the
but I
course of
think
the episode. I think that's kind of saved for when they're not directly fighting, which
Yeah,
makes
like, when
sense,
they're in
but
the
I think
van and driving around, that's kind of where a lot of the conflict happens, and I think they kind of work through most of that by the time they get to the ranch,
they
and
do.
then
Maybe I'm just picturing, because it's always been such a good balancing act, like we've
yeah.
said, of a show, of them to be fighting alongside each other
Yeah.
while having the most horrific arguments with each other possible, yet
Yes.
still working really well as a team. It's
Yeah,
just, it's more compartmentalized. It's more, let's have the argument now, do what we need to
and
do,
then what you do,
and then
yeah.
have a resolution to our emotional feelings at the end,
Yes. But I
rather
think
than it
they're
all smashing together as one.
Yeah, but I think, they are able to realize that they genuinely do care about each other because,
Yeah.
Hardcourt said that a lot in that last episode, like, you stand by your teammate, you stand by your fellow soldiers. And so despite what they're going through emotionally, they still care about each other at the core of it. They've learned to care about each other at the core of it. So when they're in this fight, like they are in it together, no matter the stakes, even if, they're close to death. Vigilante really just along for the ride to support his friend. And, he's numbered all of them as my best for number 5 and 6 and all of these different things.
Which is a big, I mean, it's
Y-
a big deal to Vigilante to
yeah.
refer to somebody as their fifth best friend.
Yes, he takes that as a very big deal, but of course, Chris is always number 1. And so he's just in it for the ride too, and I loved how he got integrated into this team. He does such a great job as this character, just funny and emotional when you don't expect him to be, and just
Yet
ridiculous.
also deeply annoying. Like,
Yes.
if he was a real person, I do not want anything to do with
Well,
this man.
that's why Chris literally doesn't answer his calls, is constantly always trying to ignore him, but, it's very difficult. It proves very difficult. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then in a fight, like, you definitely want him on your
Oh, he's
side.
useful.
So
He's very
but
useful.
yeah, so I love kind of this final battle of our 3 kind of best fighters on the field just kicking ass, and it's very gory and violent, and,
It's very
the
gory.
the Peacemaker theme song is blaring, so it just adds to,
Mm.
like, the fun and the comedy of the action. Um, and then they are getting, like, really hit hard and taking some mortal hits. We see Harcourt on the floor, blood coming from her mouth. We see Vigilante get stabbed in the back. And, in the last moments before he falls down, he like throws a knife back and kills another dude. They're like, Chris, go ahead, like stop this from happening. We'll hold down the fort here. And we see them really getting hurt bad. So, um, the fact that we're seeing them, get hit so hard and take a lot and almost die in this fight, just really
Yeah.
ups the stakes. And like the music starts to like warble into slow motion, just showing, okay, our team is going down. So it definitely adds to the stakes of what the bigger picture of the kind of butterfly, big caterpillar monster, um, along with just the team, like, getting knocked out one by one.
Yeah.
So,
And it needed to do
yeah,
that. Yes, like you said, what the music does is great in
yeah,
that final little push, but
yeah,
it needed to feel like they were at their absolute end, like there is no hope for for them to actually see the job out, get the job done.
yeah,
Um, I mean, this is always the case in structures of a team story that comes together, and at the lowest moment happens to somehow be the highest moment.
yeah,
When you're at your absolute lowest is when you just push forward that one extra bit and it works. Look at Lord of the Rings, for God's sake, as no better example of something
yeah,
like that happening. Um, but it does here. I mean, it did in the Suicide Squad. Ultimately, it was defeated at a moment that just felt so, so low. And
yeah,
I think that, it's very much repeated here. Um, we're thankful for that, but then we also realize that the butterflies were never as bad as we thought they were.
Yeah.
really, they were
They kind of
just
have a
going about.
point. Yeah.
They have such a sensible point, and it is about their own survival and
Yeah.
kind of environmentalism.
Yeah.
Um, Yet they're just going about it in this kind of drastic way that you almost want to see some sort of peace treaty of some degree,
Yes.
um, be drawn up, which again is just a surprising little spin at the very, very end of the movie. Yes, okay, we get our grand, obvious, rather ridiculous cameos, but um, what I like more is the actual story of the whole season really coming together. Adebayo announcing to the world the truth of Task Force X and what
Yeah.
Amanda Waller has actually been doing, and not telling anybody about
Yes.
how inhumane this really is. And what are we going to do about it? Something needs to be done about this. What then comes in season two? We don't know. Is it very much her fighting against her own mother? Probably. Probably.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting, situation how the team is gonna move forward. Are they gonna still be a team? How is Waller gonna handle this situation? Is this kind of the end of Task Force X? Um, so there's a lot of questions left up in the air. We see Chris, we think maybe he's doing okay. He sits on his porch. We see he still kept that final butterfly that survived, that
Yes.
kind of told
Yeah.
him, explained to him the truth of their mission. Um, and, so we see him feed it the last little bit of their, like, weird butterfly food. Eagle's just kinda flying around, dropping things for him, and then we see this kind of, image of his father just sitting next to him with this
Mm,
ugly smile on, just knowing that his father is looming in his head, and will just kinda be this presence egging at him and, kind of messing with him, uh, for who knows how long. So
yeah.
he killed the physical form of his father, but the mental form of him it still lives on and it's still
Yeah.
haunting him. So,
It's a very
I
it's a
like
very real thing that
yes,
people deal with anyway, isn't it? Which you
yes.
don't expect this level of poignancy
No,
from
you
a
think yeah.
ridiculous show.
Right? You think, it's going to be this cathartic freedom for him, but no, he's still kind of chained to this evil, ugly memory of his father. So I like this ambiguous ending. We've kind of, for the most part, dealt with the main threat, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered. So they leave it in a really good place to kind of close up the bigger things, but still have a
Yeah.
lot of really important questions left open for the next season.
Yeah,
And
they do.
James Gunn generally, I think he is great at putting together a team of, misfits, a team of people who not only does society not have any kind of faith in, but the team itself, they don't get along or like or understand each other, and then they come to be this family. We saw it with Guardians, we saw it with this Suicide Squad, and now we're seeing it with this team here. He
Yeah,
definitely excels with putting people together and making you care about them and uh, making them care about each other, and so this was kind of a perfect culmination of everything we saw all season. So your first watch through of Peacemaker. We are finished with your
yeah,
first Morgan Hasn't Seen TV series. How are your
yeah.
general thoughts on this show?
Well, before I get into that, I did just want to say I like how aggressive Peacemaker was towards Aquaman. That
Yeah,
was very funny.
because that's always a
Because
question that comes up. It's like, where are the big major superheroes when these conflicts are happening?
yeah, at least, as I alluded to the big, silly,
Yes,
grand
big
cameos
cameo,
that were
yeah.
were at the end of the movie. Not the movie, the TV show. Um, but look, they're there for fun. They're there for fun. It's nice to be there. If any of those characters and people playing those characters actually still mattered, it would be more fun than it is. It's still reasonably entertaining to
Yeah.
see a full Justice League lineup turn up
Yeah.
right at the end, get completely berated by
For being
Chris
so
for
late,
being
yeah.
late, and then him just be very aggressive towards Aquaman in particular, and at least actually Jason Momoa is physically there, physically
Yeah,
has lines within this scene, as does Ezra Miller, but that's
yeah,
beside the point.
yeah.
Um, Jason Momoa we like.
Yeah.
Um, it's nice. I think Jason Momoa's Aquaman was he's a great Aquaman. He
Yeah.
is. You can't fault him as that.
No.
I enjoyed the extra-ness, that's not really a word, but you know what I mean, of the entire Justice League showing up at the end. I really wasn't
Yeah,
quite expecting that, even though we obviously know it's kind of they're doing what
pointless.
this universe of DC movies did for so long is kind of just have shots from the back or silhouette shots or
Yes,
shots not showing the face because who plays who at this given time we don't know. It's all a
yeah.
mess, and it was all always like that. But
So
the characters
perfectly handled
themselves
to have
really
fun with
accurate.
the state of the DCEU while also addressing that question that always comes up, when it's a smaller group
Yeah,
of superheroes. Where is this big group that has been established? Why didn't the Avengers or whatever show up for this? Why didn't the Justice League show up for that? So I like that they kind of address that common question that movies and shows never address when it comes to kind of the bigger picture thing. Like the Disney
yeah,
shows, I think have run into that quite a bit with all the conflicts that happen in those, MCU shows where, how come so and so isn't showing up that's been established as a superhero in this universe? So I like that they addressed it in kind of this cheeky, funny, silly way with the
they
cameos.
did in
So
in the best way. But yeah, general thoughts, just such a fun show. Just
yeah.
really, really such a fun show. I'm glad it had the emotional weight that it did have, even though I wasn't expecting it. I felt it even going in watching these episodes as infrequently as we've ended up watching
Yeah.
after so long. I'm still getting the impact because I just think it's that well written of a show, well written of
Yay.
a story, and that much fun to watch. It's just chaotic for 8 episodes, and I like that. Yes, okay, it's a bit crass, it's a bit vulgar, but that's what it wants to be, so I can't fault it for being
Yeah.
that. It might not be exactly my style of humor, but it's the show's style of humor, and it at least is consistent with that and
Yeah.
delivers on being that, so you can't fault it for doing that. Um, it's great. I thoroughly look forward to more from these characters. I genuinely do, and I can't really say that at the moment with a lot of its competitors stuff, a lot of Marvel stuff. I feel like over the past year or so, I've definitely fallen off
Okay.
of the MCU, which you could say was inevitable at a certain point, with as a little bit chaotic as that's becoming as well. It has to
Yeah.
be set in its organization and its slate moving around, and nobody quite knows where each other's at. And it got a little bit messy after at a certain point,
Yeah.
right when a few not so well received things were being produced, and it might have blown up in the face a little bit.
A little
Just
bit,
a
yeah.
little bit. I don't think entirely, but just a little bit, and caused a certain amount of people that I would include myself in that to have fallen off a little bit of
Yeah.
something that I never wanted to
That's
fall off.
fair. Yeah.
I never wanted to fall off, but just found myself doing. But with Peacemaker season 2, I'll be there watching it immediately
Yay.
because I know it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a good, great continuation of what we saw tonally in this first season. All the applause for Peacemaker.
Yay.
Yes, yes. Very nice. Very nice. Feels good. Feels good
Yes.
to get to the end of a show, even though it's not the end of the show.
Yeah.
Feels good to get to the end.
Yes.
We're closing out, palling with Peacemaker here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Morgan Hasn't Seen TV. We will be back soon enough with another Morgan Hasn't Seen TV. Like I said before, do keep an eye out. Janine, if there is anything else you would like to say, now is the time to say it.
Just glad you really enjoyed the show. Glad we finished our first series on, well, not completely, because obviously there's going to be more, but our first season of a series on
Yeah.
Morgan Hasn't Seen TV. I'm excited for us to continue our Dawson's Creek series that we will be working our way through, as that's a very long show in and
It
of
will take us
itself.
15 years.
Yeah, so that will be a fun kind of sporadic thing to continue. We'll also be throwing something else fun into the mix, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'm really having fun with this show, and I'm glad to continue on showing you more TV shows, and for you to potentially show me some shows as well. So it's gonna be really
Yes.
fun.
It will be. It certainly will be. This show, of course, parent show. Morgan Hasn't Seen itself. You can find that on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed, which is our main home, of course, alongside It's a Wonderful Podcast, the main show every Friday, celebrating old movies and discovering new ones like we love to do over there Wednesday and Friday at the moment on the It's a Wonderful Podcast main feed on all major podcast platforms. Of course, as I said before, subscribe, ding the notification bell up on this channel as well for all the fun stuff we have here and have coming to here. Support links, Patreon, social media, all that fun stuff has been scrolling at the bottom all episode long, but you can find all those links in the description of this video. Yes, there we go. I think it's the end. It's
Yeah.
final. Do we have to do the dance and sing the song? Because I'm not willing to stand up and do the dance.
No, I think we're good. I think I think you've probably gotten your fill of the dance and the song, but
So much all the time. It does last for a little bit too long, doesn't it? Does it
yes.
last for a little bit
A
too
little
long?
bit. I mean, there's never a bad time to rock.
No, I suppose not. Stupid title sequence of Peacemaker. Really, really stupid. But there's only one thing left to do then, Janine, I think. Until the next time on Morgan Hasn't Seen TV, Janine, take us out.
A 3, a 2, a 1.
Bye.
Bye.